Welcome to Aboriginal Art in America, a podcast where each week we spend a few minutes with a work by an Indigenous Australian artist. This week, we're back at the Kluge-Ruhe to learn about a new exhibition titled MAḵAYIN, 8 Decades of Aboriginal Australian Bark Painting from Yirrkala. The exhibition will begin traveling around the United States starting September 2022. It will be the first major survey of Aboriginal bark paintings ever staged outside of Australia.
So, this is a long story. And I don't know that I've spoken it aloud like this before.
Mary Garner-McGee of WTJU sat down with Aboriginal art collection curator Henry Skerritt, who shared the story of the exhibition's nearly 6-year curation process.
October 2015, I was working on my PhD at the University of Pittsburgh, and I'd recently gotten back from Yirrkala. Been there a few times in the previous years, working on the artists there and gotten to know the people and the community. And so I'd driven down to Charlottesville in October 2015 because there was a visiting artist, a fella named Djambawa Marawili. Now, if you know anything about Aboriginal Australian art, you know that Djambawa is, put simply, he's a big deal,
Djambawa Marawili is an acclaimed painter, sculptor, and printmaker. He is the principal ceremonial leader of the Madarapa clan of the Yolngu people. His exhibit, Where the Water Moves, Where It Rests, features bark paintings, hollow log sculptures, and a print. It was displayed at the Kluge-Ruhe August 18, 2015 through January 24, 2016.
He is a leader, an artist. He's somebody with so much strength and wisdom and gravitas. So it was pretty exciting to be able to come down and spend some time with Djambawa. He had this exhibition opening, and the opening here at Kluge-Ruhe was beautiful. He sang and spoke really eloquently. And after the opening, I got invited by Djambawa and Cade McDonald from the Bukalanga Art Centre to go out to dinner. And we're having a chat, and at one point, Djambawa kind of gets quiet, and he says, He says, this is good, It's good that this museum is here. It's good that they've got so many of my family's paintings. He says, but what we really need is an exhibition that tells the whole story of bark painting from Yirrkala. And then he turns to Cade and I and he says, and you boys have to do it. I remember the next day, Cade and I sitting over breakfast, and I think the conversation went something like, man, that would be a monster of an exhibition to try and organise. Yeah, guess we better do it. So we spoke to Margot Smith here at the museum, and she was as excited as we were. I think Djambawa had also put the hard word on her about it earlier in the week too. But it set in train this project that would eventually become MAÇAYIN, 8 Decades of Aboriginal Australian Bark Painting from Yirrkala. But very quickly, in our earliest conversations, Cade and I realised that, we could put on an exhibition of bark paintings. It'd be great. There's been lots of exhibitions in Australia of bark paintings that are terrific. But for this one to be really special, and for this one to do what Djambawa wanted this exhibition to do, it had to be led by him. And so we went back to him and we said that, we'd be happy to work on this. We'd be happy to do this, but you've got to take the lead. It's got to be your project. And he thought about that. I think he also realised what a big job it was going to be. But he took it on and he gave the project his leadership and initiated a process of exchange where over the last 6 years we have had dozens of trips backwards and forwards. Djambawa came back to the USA to work on the exhibition. He deputised leaders from other clan groups to come and work on the exhibition. And what we saw was that the exhibition very quickly became a Yolngu exhibition.
The Yolngu are an aggregation of Aboriginal Australian people that inhabit the northeastern Arnhem Land in the Northern Territory of Australia.
When Wukan-Wanambi, the Marakulu clan leader, came to Charlottesville at the very start of the project, he said that he was only going to be involved if the Yolngu were the bosses. That's been our sort of credo for the whole exhibition project, has been starting with the Yolngu to tell their history, their art history, in the ways that they want to tell it. And that's been so exciting. For a little museum like ours to mount a touring exhibition that travels to 5 major cities in the United States, well, that's hard. For a little institution like us to do that with works that are extraordinarily fragile, have complicated climate needs and conservation needs, that's really hard. For us to be borrowing, the iconic, priceless symbols of Australian national art, to be bringing these works that have never travelled from Australia, these works that literally are, globally some of the most significant paintings of the mid-20th century, to be bringing those to the United States, that's a big job. But that's been the last 5 years, and at every step of the way, when I thought that this exhibition was not going to happen, when it was going to be too hard, it's always crashed through, and it's almost always crashed through because the Yolngu have just made it happen. And it's made me realise that if you work with people who are good people and want to get things done, they may run them to the end of the line, but they get done in the end.
The paintings on bark will be accompanied by an extensive media component, including video, audio recordings, and archival photographs, all developed by the Aboriginal Media Unit at Yirrkala, called the MAԿA Project. The exhibition will tour the U.S. starting in September of 2022 at the Hood Museum of Art at Dartmouth College. Aboriginal Art is a production of the University of Virginia and a member of the Virginia Audio Collective. Listen and subscribe at virginiaaudio.org.